Hi, hello everybody, and welcome back. I'm Random Randy, and this is going to be a kind of a sidetrack that I went on, looking at water. And so basically, the next thing that I was going to do was going to be about, water and it as a mechanism, I suppose, for change in the world. But something kind of came up, and I'm very interested to share this with you guys. And let me just make sure that we have audio here.
The measurable
There we
beginning
go.
of that
Okay.
which we all knew intuitively,
So hopefully
that
that's
mind
working out okay.
permeates matter, and that
But
thoughts
basically,
manifest
water
themselves in material structuring
has
much
memory.
more extensively
Okay.
than we know
And I
them.
know this isn't the greatest resolution. This is from a little mini documentary called Water Has Memory Too.
This is the
Now,
water lab
these
of Professor
folks
Dr. Bernd
here
Kröplin and
are
Matthias Pietsch in
scientists.
Stuttgart, Germany. The aerospace
And what
researchers
they're
found out
doing
that
is they're
water has a
testing
memory and stores information.
if things
They
that
researched over
are
80 cases
introduced
in
to
their
the
water lab,
water,
World and
even
Natur.
things
Now they are going to show you
as
some of their results.
insignificant sounding as thoughts, right?
Tap water from Beijing,
Like
glacier water.
holy
So
water
all these waters
being
have
blessed
different
carries a
images,
certain
which we
structure.
call
So this
different
is some of
faces.
what the memory
Another
of water
interesting
looks
aspect
like.
is
What they
to
do
change
is they
these
take
faces. Do they depend on?
there we go. They take water, put drops on slides, um, and they see different structures, basically suggesting that the water has memory. So, like this lady here,
Then the pictures, all pictures on this glass plate look like
some
this
of
picture
the
here.
different
So when
structures
you
that
have
she
a
has going here,
civilian flower
showing
inside
that
the
there's
water,
memory in water.
all the
Now, you
pictures
can find a lot
like
more like
this
this
picture of the sweet
on
earth image.
Instagram at Veda Austin
So
Water.
what does it
So
mean?
shout
It
out to
means
her
that
for
the
all the
water
work that
is
she's
storing
doing with
information in the flower.
crystallography. Um,
And the information
that's a good place to
which is
start,
stored in the
is
water
just
goes to the
with
drop. And
the
then we
way
take a
images and
photograph. And
thoughts
we
and
see
emotions
that
can
the
inscribe
water is
on
built
the
up
water
in a
at like
systematic structure.
a crazy
So the
level, like
tiny
a
flowers look
molecular,
like this,
beyond
but
molecular,
the
like
scribbled
subatomic
like
level, it
this.
seems like. Um,
And now the
so
next
this
is,
is kind of
can it be
suggestive
crystal
of,
stones? Many people like to drink
quantum
water
entanglement,
with some
many,
stones
many
like
things
granite.
really is what this
This
is
stone is an arid
suggestive
stone.
of. But
And here you see the picture
it
from an
brought me
arid
to
stone
wondering
after one day in water. And you see
about, and we'll mute that for a moment. It brought me to wondering a lot about what affects the human consciousness and possibly traumas in the past have had on the water around us. Also, is there a reason that we are denied source water, right? Or we have to buy the spring water after it's been handled several times, after coming out of the earth. Um, Turns out that the guy operating the machine bottling the water could be having a bad day, like a terrible day, or a certain music could be playing in the warehouse that where the water is bottled or where the bottled water is kept, and this may aggravate or change the structure of the water uh on like a crazy level, like what level I couldn't even begin to put into words. But this also speaks to how important our mindset and our thoughts are throughout the day. So you wake up in the morning and you're thinking that you're going to have a crappy day or it's going to be miserable. Guess what? You have changed the memory within the water inside of yourself to a state that reflects that fear and that anxiety. Much like he's demonstrating here, the differences in different types of music being played and the effects on the water crystalline structure. Okay. So he's just demonstrating that here. He goes from without music to relaxing piano to deep purple, which is a melodious rock, all the way down to heavy metal, which is more like I enjoy for the most part, hard rock, very aggressive. Um, but something that has changed with me finding out more and more about what the sounds and the emotions around me do, I tend to only gravitate towards the music that puts me in a higher state of being anymore. Which means, you know, a lot less anger based, hate based, kind of Slayer esque stuff. Even though, you know, there's nothing necessarily bad about the structure that it imparts on the water, I think it all has to do with your emotions and your thoughts. Interestingly enough, here she's taking water out of this container of sausages, okay, and testing it, and then she eats a couple out of it, and then tests the water. Now, what's interesting is the water directly reflects, and you guys will see here in just a moment, the water directly reflects the missing hot dogs or the missing sausages. It shows you in its crystalline structure the volume of sausages within it, which is just fascinating. So, you know, you can imagine while your water's getting bottled, or much like in small town America, drive around town and what do you see? You see a water tower, and guess what it has strapped to the sides of it, or sometimes all around the entire water tower? It has radioactive antenna or radio antennas, sorry, which of course are radioactive. They are active on a radio sense. So these antennas are imbuing the water for the entire town with whatever information is flowing through those radio waves. And a lot of that information is people speaking to each other, texting each other, downloading, uploading different information, which is like a whole different crazy subset of why it's important to know what you're consuming intellectually, spiritually, because, you know, and collectively, right? Because whatever people information people are sending through those radio waves, through those towers, is imparting on the water itself. And guess what? That's just the beginning of the iceberg when it comes to what's in tap water. So aside from all of the chemical, you know, shenanigans and things going on in our tap water, we have an energetic shenanigans also happening that is changing very drastically the um the shape of our water, the face of our water, as this doctor puts it. um so, you know, that's just what I wanted to bring up and share, that there's like a whole nother aspect to water aside from it as a force of nature, aside from the floods and you know, the sinkholes and all of the very like tangible physical geologic things. There's also this very kind of spiritual woo woo side of water that's very real. So when I say woo woo about things, I just mean it's new age. Most people neglect to think about it, but it's something to keep in mind. Okay. So you can see tap water and tap water with the influence of thoughts. You see the organization of the crystals there. So if you have a glass of tap water and you're like, hey, I love you, tap water, you know, you're my thing. I love you, right? Grab your bottle of water, right? Grab your bottle of water, preferably filtered or distilled, you know, at a minimum, but give that water your love. I know it sounds crazy, but you put your goodwill, your love, your happiness, and you think it, you will it into that water, and that memory of that love that you are giving of yourself. Again, very woo woo, I know, but that memory is imparted into the water. Then you drink that water, and then that water extends that memory into the water inside of you. Okay. And it sounds super crazy, but really, what have you got to lose? What have you got to lose by talking to your glass of water before you drink it, or holding on to a glass of water and just thinking good thoughts and willing that water to not only bless you, but to rejuvenate you, right? You will impart a structure into that water that your body needs, that is removed from all of the water that we consume most often on a daily basis. So, you know, I recommend go take a look at this site, guys, worldinadrop.com. See some of the work they're doing. Go look at Veda Austin Water on Instagram. Go search her up. She's doing some amazing work with the crystallography. It's just stunning what happens. And you can see this man's thoughts or will even penetrates a Faraday cage. That I find very interesting. Okay, so your thoughts, your emotions, your will can penetrate even a Faraday cage that is blocking out all of the other aspects of radio waves around us for the most part, right? But guess what? Thought waves are on a different level. They're contagious, you know, they multiply. You can see this by when you walk into some room and there's somebody having a bad day and suddenly you're not feeling up to the day because you've shook this person's hand and suddenly you're feeling down. That's that translation of that energy within that person's water or within their being, within their will. So just some more random thoughts for you folks. We've got a few more minutes of this video here. And so we will go ahead and hear what the man has to say.
And the shape, the form, and the content of the shape and the form. So everything is built first out of a shape.
It brings to mind for me
Finally,
the
this shape is filled with
structure of what we're taught,
this we know from
of what we feel
any
like we
creative
know.
process.
Do all of
Projections
these
and architect
thoughts and
builds a house,
fancies
builds the first
affect our
thoughts
water,
or ideas by
you know, inside of
exploring,
us?
and then later on
I
by
really,
exploring this,
really,
and then later
really think
on
so.
this house is built
Um,
and the matter follows. But
it's
it is
just
this
mind-blowing
that
stuff. There's
evolves
so
in the
much to
future,
this.
and we have
There's
to
so many
observe all the
thoughts
time.
that could be
So
had
let's
here
test this. So what we
that
did,
I will leave
we
it to
take
you folks
salt water,
to look into this
take
stuff,
drops of
to
salt
find
water,
out what's
which is
going on
filled
with
with
the
water from the
water,
sea.
why. Another thing is
Observe something
why,
which we observe very often.
you know, why all of the tomfoolery with our water, why the manipulation, why the adding of chemicals and things like this. Of course, we hear about fluoride and they're adding it to dumb us down. Uh, Further on a different level, though, by introducing things into the water, you're imparting that onto the water's memory, thereby erasing the previous memory of the water. So, if the water had memories of our past, if the water had emotions from our past, and things like this, would there be a reason for us to want to cover those up or change those memories that are embedded within that water? Same thing with crystals, things like quartz, different different mineral compounds. Is there a reason all this crap is broken down to such small sizes and then sold on the cheap to the masses? Does this contain memory like the water does? I'm inclined to say yes. I'm inclined to say everything around you contains memory. Okay. But what does that mean for us? Well, it really doesn't mean anything unless we put it to use, unless we know about it. Like this gentleman is disclosing here, unless we know that we can change the structure of ourselves, the crystalline structure within us, unless we know that, we never will take a step to do that. Right. So hopefully this information can find you and can bring you to an understanding that mindset is very important. Uh, what some people would call spirituality, which ties into the thought process. That's very important. Your self talk is huge, huge, guys. I mean, absolutely huge. It seems silly. Listen, I know it seems silly when you're like, oh, I get up in the morning and do my affirmations. It doesn't even take standing in front of the mirror telling yourself everything's cool. What it takes is developing an understanding that everything's cool, that the experiences that you're having are meant for you. As abstract as that may seem at first, run with it, give it a chance, you know, give the water a chance, give your mind a chance to change the water before you consume it, to change yourself. Give these things a chance, guys. I mean, it's crazy uh, to look at the last year of my life and see what a difference simple things like a prayer over my water or uh the well wishing for myself, like sending myself loving emotions in the future, just thinking of myself later on in that day when I know I'm going to be doing X, Y, or Z activity. Think to yourself, send yourself, if you're having a good moment, send that moment to yourself in the future when you're going to need it. And it's crazy, right? it's wild, it's crazy, it's woo woo, whatever. But listen, I'm here to tell you. And the fact of the matter is, I would not be reaching you a year ago before I had started considering these things. So that's just the thought. I wanted to share that with you guys as I was looking into water as, like a geologic and, uh, kind of agent of chaos, I guess, right? Water's one of those, time's one of those, plasma events are one of those, energy and all its different shapes and sizes and methodology, like it's crazy. There's so many different methods or mechanisms rather taking place at the same time here. It's incredibly interesting and very beautiful. And again, I hope that this finds you well and you're able to take something from this and possibly learn something. Um, Again, if you find any value in this, drop us a like, a comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. It gives me the confirmation that I need in order to continue to put out the content that you folks are able to enjoy. So, that being said, Random Randy, once again, wishing you all well.